Coffee. For some, it's the essence of life. For others, it's a one-sip toilet trip and pray to God there's some bog roll. But for me, it's the woodsman's gold. There's nothing better than that morning coffee, taking in the sounds and scenes of nature around me. It's not just the taste, it's the whole process. Collecting the kindling, lighting the fire, building it up as each layer is engulfed by flame, placing the kettle over the heat and waiting for that boil. Then the pour, the roasted smell of coffee filling the air. Anyway, I digress. There are so many ways to make coffee these days, it can often be confusing. Some people like to grind their beans, others like coffee that has already been ground, and some just like the instant stuff. Blech. Either way, here's a short video on different methods of making a cup of coffee in the woods that I have used over the years. Most of the time when I'm in the woods, I tend to use a hand grinder, but there are occasions when I go a bit more traditional and use a mortar and pestle. It takes a little longer to do, but it's a pretty satisfying way of doing it. A quick note to add, the beans I am grinding in this scene are past their use-by date. I'm just using these for the purpose of the demonstration. Once you have your desired coffee grounds ready to go, it's a case of heating up some water. Cowboy Coffee, a nice traditional way of making coffee, and one that I've used so many times when I don't have anything to filter my coffee with. First, I put a hot billy can on the fire to warm up. Then, before it boils, I add in my coffee grounds and bring the coffee back up to a rolling boil. I let the coffee boil like this for 3 to 4 minutes and then take it off the heat. I let it set for a couple of minutes and then take some fresh cold water and pour it gently into the billy can. The primary reason for pouring in cold water is that it forces the coffee grounds to the bottom of the can, but at the same time, it slightly reduces the temperature of the coffee, which means it will be ready to drink faster. Then I gently pour the coffee into a cup, and you can see it comes out smooth with no grounds. If you want, you can still filter this coffee, but for me it works fine pouring it as it is, as long as you pour it slowly. You can adjust the strength and taste of Cowboy Coffee by either adding in more grounds to begin with, or by boiling it for longer to make it more stout. This next method is possibly the strangest way I've ever made coffee in my life. It was taught to me by Paul Kirtley, and it's known as the coffee drop, or dropping the coffee. Essentially, you boil some water and pour this into your coffee grounds. Rather than add cold water, like you do with Cowboy Coffee, you physically drop the billy can or kettle and stop it just before it hits the floor. The key is to drop it relatively fast and bring it to a halt without sloshing the coffee inside. What this is doing is pushing dense coffee grounds to the bottom of the can and letting the water sit on top. Then, much like Cowboy Coffee, it's ready to pour straight away without the need for a filter of any sort. If you'd like to see a more in-depth instruction on this method, then I'll put a link to this exact video in the description below. It also features a ton of bushcraft skills and tips. The Mocha Pot was designed in 1933 by Italian engineer Alfonso Bialetti. It has 3 main components: a boiling chamber, a metal filter, and a collection chamber where the coffee will be ready to pour from. It is a more common sight on a kitchen stove, but with a few modifications, they can be altered to be usable on a campfire. This one here was actually modified for me by a subscriber of mine. Most Mocha Pots have a plastic handle, so he removed the handle and instead added a short piece of copper pipe with a pinhole in it. The handle he then made from another length of copper pipe secured inside a stick, so that you can pick up the pot when it's hot. The issue with this type of handle is that as you go to pour the coffee, the handle is just going to continue to rotate around and the pot won't be able to pour. So by securing a small safety pin or paper clip through the holes in the copper pipe, it allows the pot to be locked in place when pouring. Fill the boiling chamber with water and then place the metal filter on top. Add in your coffee grounds. The more compact the grounds are, the longer it takes for the coffee to be extracted. Screw the base to the main collection chamber and set it over the fire or on the coals. The great thing about the Mocha Pot is that the water doesn't actually need to fully boil for the coffee to be ready. As the water heats, the pressure builds up. Eventually, the pressure will become high enough to force the water up the funnel, through the coffee grinds, and pour out into the upper chamber. Be sure to take it off the heat before you hear the infamous gurgling sounds, which will lead to rapid over-extraction and the coffee not tasting right. In stark contrast to the traditional methods of coffee making, there are a number of new modern ways of making coffee. The AeroPress was invented in 2005 by Alan Adler, an inventor and engineer. The main components are a plunger with rubber seal, a filter, round filter paper to fit inside it, and a pouring chamber. I store the round filter papers inside the tube of the plunger, as well as a small wooden spoon to use for the grounds. Sit the filter paper inside the filter and twist lock it into place onto the pouring chamber. Add in a few scoops of ground coffee and sit this on top of the cup you are drinking out of. I add some hot water and then I place the plunger on top and let it sit there for a few seconds. Some coffee will already begin to filter through. Then just push down on the plunger and the coffee is forced through the filter and filter paper into the cup, creating a clean and smooth coffee. One of the best things about an AeroPress is the cleanup afterwards is so easy. Just untwist the filter and pop the filter paper out. The coffee grounds should be fairly compressed so they come out in one lump. These can be put into your compost heap, and then it's just a case of wiping clean the plunger and you're ready for the next cup. It's fast, simple and compact. Great for taking with you on long hikes or multi-day camping trips. Another method of coffee making, which is also very compact and fairly lightweight, is a folding metal filter. The four sides are held together by metal pins, which allow for it to be collapsed when not in use. All you need to do is fold out the filter into shape. Grab some coffee filter paper and carefully place this inside the metal one. You can't pour coffee straight into this filter without paper, as it's just a holding container and has a fairly large hole in the middle to allow water to pass into your cup. Then just add a few scoops of your favourite coffee, compact it down if you wish for a slower extraction, and then pour over some hot water. Be sure to pour the water slowly, as sometimes if you pour too fast, the volume of the water can break the fragile filters. The water will naturally start to filter through the coffee and filter paper into your cup. You might need to top it up for a larger coffee. When you're done, just remove the filter paper, fold up the metal filter and you're ready to go. Another fast, simple and compact way to make coffee in the woods. If you find yourself in a pinch and you don't want to bother doing the Cowboy Coffee or dropping the coffee method, you can just place a handkerchief or shamag over your cup, scoop some ground coffee on top and pour some hot water over it. It's a quick, fast way to make coffee, but the effectiveness of the filtering will be down to how tightly woven your material is. Also, it can get messy and it's not the easiest to clear up, but it does work. Finally, the French press or cafetière, for those who like a bit of luxury in their lives, or if you have acres of space in your backpack to carry one. The first style was invented in 1852 by two Frenchmen, Mayer and Delforge. The more modern version, which you see here, was created in 1929 by two Italians. This method is unique in the sense that the actual filter is the moving component in the process. Add in your coffee granules, pour in the hot water to your desired level, and then place the lid and filter on top. I then leave this to brew for 4 to 5 minutes. I also rotate the lid so that the pouring filter on the lid faces the opposite way, to trap the steam and to keep the aromas inside. When it's ready to be poured, just push the filter down slowly and watch as it catches the coffee grounds and pushes them down to the bottom. Now your coffee is ready to pour. I tend to pour it quite slowly so that the grounds don't get disturbed and end up coming back through the sides of the filter. And there you have it, another fine cup of coffee made out in the woods. There are many more ways to make coffee outside, like percolators for example, but the ones I use the most are the AeroPress and Cowboy Coffee. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you very much for joining me. If you're interested in bushcraft, camping, building and everything outdoors, then please feel free to subscribe to the channel. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.